Hi, in this video, we're going to do the chapter 3 in the Spotlight from the book that I use for my class. I'll pull this over and go through it with you a little bit. So this is going to cover multiple nested decision structures. Suppose one of your professors uses the following 10-point grading scale for exams. It's a 90, 80, 70, 60. Your professor has asked you to write a program that will allow a student to enter a test score and then display the grade for that score. Here's an algorithm that you will use. I'm going to ask the user to enter a test score, determine the grade in the following manner. If the score is less than 60, then the grade is F. Otherwise, if the score is less than 70, it's a D, and so on down through there. If you decide that the process of determining the grade will require several nested decision structures as shown in the figure below that we're going to look at. Okay, then we're going to create the program for this. So I'm going to scroll down here so you can see what this looks like. There's the nested decision structure. The grade comes in. It checks to see if the score is less than 60. If it is, then it goes to the true side, which then displays your grade as F. If it's false, then it goes and checks the next decision. In this case, scored less than 70. If it's true, it displays your grade as D. Otherwise, it goes to the false side and does the next one. And then so on down through. Okay. After your score is less than 90, if that's true, it displays your grade as a B. Otherwise, it's going to display your grade as an A. So let's go ahead and do the code for this. And again, my suggestion is prior to getting into Visual Studio Code, that you create a folder where you're going to store this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already got Visual Studio Code running here. So we're going to go ahead and do this. What it does over here, this is an old one that I did. I have all these in under my student one here. But you can use the same folder and over again. My problem with doing that is that I lose which one is which in there. So I always break mine down in this class, for example, by chapter, so I can keep them all in there. So I'm going to I'm going to open the folder, and so I'm going to have to navigate to where that is. I'm going to just do it this way, be a little bit faster. Okay, and it's in the Spotlight programs. I'm doing chapter 3 and calculate grade. And once I have the folder selected, it's going to be listed up here. And there's nothing in there right now, so there's nothing showing up there. So we're going to be creating a new file. It's going to want the file name. Remember, the file name has to be the same as the class name. The only difference is the file name has the .java on it. So this is going to be nested decision .java. Okay, there's the folder that it's going in. I always double check to make sure I've got the right one picked out. And then we'll go ahead and start doing the code on this. So first thing we need is the class header, public class, and then nested decision, then our curly brace, and then our main. And curly brace for that. Then we'll go ahead and put the code in here. Now, I didn't mention in the chapter 2 one, you should have picked up on the reading on that. In Java, you have to declare all your variables. Most of you have already had Python, so you're used to not having to declare variables. But in Java, like most languages, you do have to declare your variables. So this is going to have an int test score, variable we're going to be using in this. Okay. We're also going to need, back up here, there we go. We're also going to need some way to access the keyboard. So we're going to do that. We're going to use the scanner. Keyboard equals new scanner system.in. Notice when there's scanners underlined here, That's because it's not part of the original Java. So what we have to do with this is we've got to import into it the scanner. So we can go up here above my class. I'm going to do an import, and it's in Java dot util dot scanner. Okay. So now test score and keyboard are no longer, well, I shouldn't say that. Scanner is no longer underlined. Test score and keyboard are underlined because they have not been used yet. So that's the way for you to be able to tell if you create a bunch of variables at the beginning of your program, declare them all, and then in your program you don't use one of them, it'll be underlined so you know that you could get rid of that if you wanted to. Okay, so now that we got the scanner set up, we go ahead and have the user enter their value. So system.out.print, and then here we'll put the message we want to give them. Enter your numeric test score. I usually do a colon space after that. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this welcome to Copilot thing off of here and give me more room on there. Okay. Then test score is going to be equal to keyboard, the scanner object that we created, dot next int, because we're reading in an int. It comes in as a string, so the next int will convert it into an integer and then pass it into test score. So now we're going to do our series of nested ifs. And I'm going to do it the way that the book has this so you can follow along with this, but I'll tell you something here in a second. If test score is less than 60, then what we want to do is system.out.println your grade is F. Oops, get this. Okay, then we're going to do an else. If test score is less than 70. And what I'm going to do here, I'll leave that in there. I'm going to recopy that in a second. I'm going to copy all this. Go back and highlight that and do a Control V and paste that in there, because then all I have to do is change this to a 7 and this to a D. Okay, that's indented. This needs to be indented. This is what's going to mess up in here, make it a little bit harder to do. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is not do the copying anymore. You can just go ahead and put it in here. If test score is less than 80, I'm just going to type all this in here because it's a little bit easier. System.out.println your grade is C. Here we get another one. The test score is less than 90. Your grade is, B. Else, if test score is less than 100, is A. I always do that mistake. And then else your grade. Oops, I messed up there. Sorry. Yeah, we don't need this stuff here, so I can delete all of this. And we don't need an if on here, so it's just the else. So we can delete that, and we can delete this, which means we can delete this, and we can take out of that blank line there, and bring this back over here. There we go. Okay. So we got everything in there. I always go back and double check. Yep, see I got left off the semicolon there. So that's why I had the underline there. Look and make sure that nothing else is underlined. It doesn't look like it. So we'll go ahead and run this. And then we'll do some testing on it. Okay, let's put in 75. Your grade is C. Good. Okay, let's run it again. Put in 91. Your grade is A. So everything seems to be working okay on it. Now, one of the what I was going to tell you before, okay, and the one problem that comes up with this is that I don't have a close on the keyboard. You see it's still underlined there. You can do that. I could come down here below this, and I have to go find the. It would be else right here. I think it's this one here. I can do a keyboard dot close on there, and if I do that, that gets rid of the underline under keyboard, but it's not required. So I don't do that all the time, and the book doesn't do it, but you can put that in there on there, and that gets rid of the problem on there. It's just a warning type thing. So, but what I was going to mention to you is that the if else that we did here, two things. One is with setting this up the way it is, then if your students are mainly good students and they usually get A's and B's, then doing it this way is going to take the program longer to run because it's got to go down through all of these before it gets to a B and even further to get to the A. If you switched it around and said if test score is greater than or equal to 90, print out an A. Else, if test score is greater than or equal to 80 and so on down, then the A's and B's would be hit first and it would make it run faster. You wouldn't notice it on the computer. The computer runs pretty fast, and you wouldn't notice the difference on there. But those are some of the things you need to think about when you're working with something like this, because if you don't, you could run into a problem, a timing problem. Programs running really long if you have really big programs and you don't look at stuff like that. The other thing is that notice we're using if, else, if, else, if, else. We could also do if this, else if, else space if, and then test score less than 70. And that would keep everything lined up and wouldn't be skewed over toward the right like it is here. Okay, just some things to think about. I'm going to go ahead and do a save on this so I can get that. There we go.